Welcome to the talk show Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields in academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. Country artist Sheyna Gee is our guest today. Sheyna will talk about her love of music and her experiences as both a national and international artist.
Sheyna Gee, welcome to Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
Howdy, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Sheyna, when did you first become interested in country music?
I started playing guitar when I was 5, and I started writing songs when I was like 6, and I always thought that I was like a rock musician, and my mom and dad only listened to like either top 40 or rock, like alternative rock, because I grew up in the 90s. So I always wanted to be like that. And as I got older, some of my friends were into country when I was in high school, and I went to Stagecoach and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, my music sounds like this. I didn't know it sounded like this, but it just does. So then I started a deep dive into all of the greats and all the current country music and 90s country music, you know, Shania, Dixie Chicks, all that fun stuff. And, you know, find out where that stuff was all from, the Dolly Partons and, you know, Loretta Lynn's and Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, all that stuff. And so like in my teens, probably.
Well, it's great that you, people always have their idols, but it's interesting to me that you didn't know what your music really sounded like. It sort of found you, I think, more than you found it. So I think that's really interesting. When you play the guitar, did you always sing? Or did you play the guitar first and then finally said, hey, I'm going to sing along to some of these tunes?
I started playing guitar, like I said, when I was 5, and I definitely played guitar first. I didn't know that I was a singer. And at 6, when I wrote my first song, I just pretty much ended up singing my own songs just because I was so young and writing them. And joined my first like real band. I played my first show when I was like 6, and like the music store by me would put like bands together. And so I played shows as a band when I was young, but my first like band outside of that was when I was 9 and was the lead singer, but all 3 of us sang harmonies and kind of switched off. And so kind of figured that all out there. But before that, it was kind of just out of necessity, had to sing my own songs.
Well, it's great because, you know, I love hearing when I grew up in the 90s, because I have ties that grew up in the 90s. But it's so interesting. It's funny to me, you're saying this age thing as if it's normal. Well, when I was 6 and I did my own show, and then at 9, it sounds like you were 10 years ahead of yourself, or where most people do get started. So now we fast forward, and you've had so many years in the business. So the music business is definitely not all glitz and glamour. So what struggles have you experienced on your way to success?
I've definitely experienced the whole gamut of entertainment industry struggles. When I was a teenager, being told I'm a little too fat and not like polished up enough, and then I'm too young, and then once I got to be 18, I was too old. And, you know, got in some contracts and had some creative differences, had someone try to take one of my songs and sell it back to me, even though it hadn't done anything. So I've literally run the gamut of entertainment industry struggles, but I think each one is a learning experience, you know?
Oh, yeah. But it's definitely, I mean, these ages you're mentioning. How old were you when somebody tried to take your song away from you?
11.
These ages are either abnormal, or I must have started really late. So this is unbelievable. So who was representing you then?
Nope, my mom.
Wow. So that's...
He literally left a voicemail on my mom's phone, and then we never talked to him again. She just said, fuck it, if he takes the song, you'll write another one.
That's it. You write another one. Well, I guess when you have that talent,
Yeah.
you know, I always say sometimes when I hear a song, if I was on an island for 3 months with a pencil and pad, I wouldn't have gotten one of those lines in. So I just have, as an English teacher, we teach a lot of poetry. A lot of my introductory lessons back when I was teaching started off with songs that kids liked, and just the words. And I have to say that I wasn't always a fan of country music, but when I started to really look at the words more, it really resonated with me. Tell me about the messages and the songs that you write.
My songs are melancholy but hopeful. I feel like I am that kind of describes me. I am a very happy person, but I've gone through a lot of and been down. But something good always comes from every bad experience. And I kind of like to put that message, we've all been through some shit, but it's nothing you can't get out of. And I've dealt with a lot of heartbreak, but I've also loved strongly. And, I feel like there's balance. It even goes into like my look with my half of my body is tattooed and half of it's not. I feel like you got to have balance in life. And I try to send that message with my music as well.
Well, it's so interesting. It reminds me, I always hear words that resonate with me, a blast from the past. So Love Boat, 30, 40 years old probably by now, but there was an episode with Sonny Bono from Sonny and Cher, and he played a guy who only wrote good music when he broke up. So he was in love with this girl, and his manager was like, you got to write another good song. So he forced a breakup so the guy could write again. What vibe do you need to be your most creative writer?
I mean, I've been writing so long, inspiration has come in every single way. I've definitely written a lot of music in my darkest times. But as living in Nashville for the last 7 years, I've kind of learned to turn it on and off because we have writing sessions here. When I was writing for my last project last year, I was writing 3 to 5 days a week. So you kind of don't get a choice of whether to be inspired or not when you're in the room. And if you've been waiting for a write with a writer who has 6 number one songs, you have to come in and you've been waiting for that write for 3 months. You don't get to choose if inspiration strikes. You got to make it happen. So I used to and I still write solo a lot, and I only write solo when I'm inspired. I don't really try to force myself, since I do write so much with co-writers. But yeah, I guess co-writers are what inspires me to write now, is saying like, okay, I have a meeting at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning and we have 4 hours. Let's see if we can write a banger.
Yeah, I never realized. I always thought for me that people, would write at home and then they'd bring it in. I forgot the fact that when you co-write, you go in there and I guess it's a real brainstorm. It's almost like writing a sitcom where you're there and that's the time you have to write. And that's got to be very stressful. What can you tell me about the stress you've experienced in the music business?
It's definitely stressful, especially at the beginning, even when you're writing with people when you're at the beginning, you're usually, unless you're very lucky, but you're usually writing with people about the same caliber. And it's so nerve-wracking because both of you don't have very much experience writing. Nowadays, I don't get as nervous because I'm like, all right, I wouldn't have been able to get myself into this room if it wasn't for the songs that I wrote that were good before this, and nerves just kind of get in the way. Now, if I got in a writing room with someone like Shane McAnally, Josh Osborne, or Ashley Gorley or something like that, I'd probably still be pretty nervous. But I've gotten to a point where I know what I bring into a room and what I don't, and I let the other people in the room do the parts that I don't. And I'm the pusher. I try to like, all right, let's get to the next line.
So you're heavily immersed, obviously, in the music end of Sheyna Gee, but how involved are you in the business end of Sheyna Gee?
I am a one-man shop. I am manager, booker, a merch orderer, merch sender, writer, and performer. I do all of the things. So if you get an email from me, it's from me. If you get a message on Instagram or TikTok of me responding, it's me. And if you hear a song on my Spotify, I wrote it. I am 100% in on this whole journey.
That's excellent. And every song, well, I guess you do some covers, but anything on Spotify you say is all written by you?
Everything except for the Christmas song. But everything else I either wrote solo or it was a co-write with me and other writers.
Do you know how many songs you've written? It sounds like you may have lost count. You do so many. Do you have any idea how many songs, or how many have been copywritten? How many, are in your opinion, these are legitimate legal songs? How many of those have you written?
I mean, we don't really copyright songs. As soon as they're recorded into your phone, they're copywritten.
Oh, okay.
Because it has a date stamp on it now. So, but I have, like I said, I've been writing since I was 6. I put out my first album when I was 13. And like I've had stuff placed in TV by me since I was about the same age, like 13. And just since I've lived in Nashville, I've recorded about 30 songs. Now I've only released like 10 of them. But that's the perfectionist in me thinks nothing's ever done. But yeah, thousands. At my mom's house, I still have a closet, like a bin full of notebooks that are completely full from front to back. So like yeah.
That's great. I'm curious, as a performer, does your mind shift at all when you sing a song that you wrote as a teenager or even younger that you still might sing now? As you sing it, do you remember, oh, I remember where I was when I wrote this. I was 11, I was 13, I was 12. Do you just sing to sing, or does that, what goes through your head when you, I mean, it's amazing. When you sing a song you wrote, which I've never done, everybody has all these apps where they sing karaoke, as I do as well. But what's the feeling when you sing a song that you wrote that has meaning to you? That's got to be an emotional experience.
I don't really sing any of the songs I wrote when I was younger. The oldest one is probably like 7, 8 years old. And some of them were about like my past relationships. Like the song that's the most popular in my network of mine is called Ghost, and it's about 2 past relationships. And it's true that song was just written by me, and it was every line for line is exactly the story that I was going through at the time. And I'm just excited that other people can connect and that like I wasn't alone in feeling that way. And so it kind of is like freeing a little bit, like, oh, I'm not sad about this. Like we've all been through this shit. So, I don't know. It doesn't really affect me too much.
Well, you talk about connecting with people, which is excellent, but I'm wondering, is it safe to say that when you wrote these songs, whoever their relationship was with absolutely heard that song and said, uh-oh, that's me? Did they definitely know?
No, there's a funny story about that, actually. So I started the song when I still lived in California, and it was about my relationship at the time. And I had sang it into my phone, and I never listened to it ever again. And so I forgot about it completely. And 3 years later, I was going into the studio and trying to pick songs. And I heard this and I was like, I should finish that. Like that was a good little thing, blurb I had there. And I happened to be in kind of the exact same situation with the next relationship that I was in. And my boyfriend at the time was also the engineer on the project. And I showed him the song, and he loved the song and was like, let's knock out this other song that was going to go in and put this song in. It's so good. And he had no idea it was about him, and I was recording it. And at that time, singing that song, I was pretty much on the verge of tears all day because I knew that the relationship was pretty much over. And he was my engineer and whatever. But now singing it, that relationship is long gone. I'm happily in the next one. Who knows if I get to that next point again, but at this point I'm so beyond that. But yeah, at the time it was definitely very emotional to play something that was really about what I was going through, and it was in that moment. But he had no idea.
Interesting. I'd have to hear the song, and I think I'd be surprised if he had heard no idea. So that is very interesting. But hence could have been the problem. But yeah. I have to ask you, what comes first? And it may be different from song to song. What comes first, the music or the lyrics?
Usually for me, a lyrical, like little line with the lyrics and the melody, and then I'll sit down with my guitar. And but if I'm in a co-write, like we usually try to strum a little something, or like one of us will be like, oh, I have this idea for this concept, or I have this idea for this concept, and we try to, so it's kind of different every time.
Interesting. So, because I didn't know if everybody had the same writing style. I'm sure it differs in some way. So it begs the question, because you keep throwing, oh, that song, not too young. I was only 8. It's hysterical. I think, boy, did I raise my kids wrong. At 8, they weren't writing songs or performing them. But how did you get from first performance to international performances?
I just went international this year for the first, I mean, I traveled as a tourist, but my first tour in Europe, and it just happened to be the internet has been amazing for me. I had connected with some people in Germany before COVID, and then the tour was supposed to be in June of 2020. And we were able to finally reschedule 2 years later and made it happen. And since I was going out there, I had made some relationships with an artist in Sweden who I had featured on one of her songs in the meantime. And so she let me open for her for 4 dates in Sweden. And I had made a relationship with a radio DJ in the UK. And so she helped me organize a whole leg of the tour in the UK. And it was just the stars aligned, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about opening for people and working with people, how do you keep your head on straight when you work with the likes of Stevie Wonder and other stars you've been with?
Like I said, the whole balance thing, I've had just as many lows as I've had highs. So I know when I get to wherever I'm at that moment, it could all be over in the snap of a hand. So just enjoy it while it's there.
Definitely some great advice there. Speaking of advice, what advice would you give to young people interested in a career in entertainment? Especially, you mentioned social media and things of that nature has totally been a game changer in the last 5 to 7 years. So what would you say to a young person who said, I want to do what you do? Because all they know and all they see, that's all they know. The glamour, the applause. What would you tell them about the whole thing about being an entertainer, and what hardships and what perseverance is needed?
My advice that I would give is advice that I was given that I did not take until last year. I was always chasing something, and it's the hardest advice to take ever. And I know firsthand, but be authentic. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to chase trends. Don't try to write something that's not you. Just be you, because there's already everybody else. And people aren't going to notice you if you're chasing something. You have to be authentic to what you're doing.
That's so interesting to me, because I've listened to a lot of your music and I've seen some clips and performances, and I would never think that someone gave you that advice and you didn't take it, because you seem tremendously authentic. So is this something recently, or when you were young, you were chasing, and then all of a sudden someone gave you the advice and boom, now it's all about Sheyna Gee?
I've always been authentic to myself to a point, but always felt like I was a misfit. And so I think I always put out stuff that was authentic. I always presented myself authentic, but I was highly insecure about what I was doing. I didn't believe it. And so although I was being authentic, I don't think I believed it. I think I was seeking validation that I wasn't getting. And so I was still thinking what I was doing wasn't right. And in the last couple of years, I've been able to get rid of that veil and be like, all right, this is me. I need to either accept this, or I'm going to be insecure for the rest of my life. And that's no kind of life to live.
I've seen a lot of people who, when I see them, especially some groups I followed for decades, it seems like they're almost having as much fun performing as I'm having listening. So where do you fit along that fun graph?
Oh, I think I'm probably enjoying it more. I do this because I can't do anything else. And I love doing this more than anything else. And I love it more than any person, any animal, anything. I get to do the coolest thing in the world. So I enjoy the shit out of it. And whether it's playing my own songs or playing covers or acoustic or full band or whatever, I'm just happy that I am one of the lucky ones. So you're always going to see me with a smile on my face, even if I'm playing the saddest song that has ever lived. Even when I'm walking down the street, I'm smiling. I can't help it. Even the bad days aren't that bad,
Well, it's great to have that kind of attitude for sure. Sheyna, how can people find out more about you?
People can find me on any social media sites. My name is Sheyna Gee, SheynaGee, but you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at G is for Gangster. That is GEEIS, the number 4 Gangster. I'm Sheyna Gee.
Outstanding. Sheyna Gee, I can't thank you for joining us today and sharing your journey as a country music artist and really glimpses into what's really needed in the industry to succeed. To the viewers, don't forget to watch us on E360 TV, available on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Roku and Apple TV and Amazon Fire. Remember to follow us on social media. Life Stories with Marc Hoberman is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, our YouTube channel. Sheyna, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@lifestorieswithmarchoberman.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.